So I went back and I decided to submit the archived radar from the military website, the naval military website, to kind of give us an idea of where and how fast Hector moved. So we had waves, like I said, for 2 weeks. So let's take a look at Hector. I probably needed to go straight to the 8th because it looks like this is when we started to see surf, and it was on the 7th or the 8th. And you can see that it's moving into the picture. It seems like they did the same thing to the outer rings of this one, because you can see that they're blowing them apart. But you'll notice that Hector, as I move through the motions of the screen here, of different days, Hector seemed to be formed further off the coast, which is why I think this was more natural. It had its eye for the most part, and I did not see as I went through all the way, a lot of the ones on the 8th and the 9th. It takes a long time because you have to go through individual screenshots. But I noticed that they had not put a lot of the EMF radiation digital white lines that I would see in the other ones. I didn't see a lot of that in this storm. So you can see just a little bit, but nothing like we saw in Lane. Did the same kind of thing where everyone was worried it's going to hit us, though they didn't close schools out, which was interesting. It stayed below the 18, it's still on the same 18 longitude degree row here. I think they started manipulating a little bit here. Let's go back to this one. Okay, this is a great shot for you to see. And this is evidence, as you can see those rings. That's when they hit things with the electric magnetic radiation, and you can only catch it one frame at a time. And that's when you also see the weird crisscross lines in the clouds, and you see the what looks like trailer tracks. And when it crosses over, like in here, in this area, you'll see what looks like a waffle imprint on the clouds. That is why you see that. That is what happens. It's weird, but it's so true. It's so bizarre, but it's just the way our world is right now. It's, the things you learn over time. So again, this storm, they still did the same thing to the outer bands. You can see that where they were trying to blow out the outer bands. And you know that that's true because the outer bands have this horizontal kind of shaving to it. I don't know how they do it, but they were shaving the outer bands. Oh wow, there's another shot of even more radiation to hit the storm. And I'm starting to think that when they hit it with the radiation, that's what made these outer bands have those little lines in it. Again, that's speculation because whatever science they're using in here to do this is beyond my intelligence. I have no idea. But again, this is Hector, right? So, and Hector sent us waves for a long time. Oh, there we go. This is definitely evidence here. I guess it was close enough. You have to get the storms close enough to be able to do something like that, where they hit it to manipulate the storm to make it stronger or weaken it, whichever way they feel they want to control the storm. So again, I'm just going through. They did it again. They did it twice. So they did it here. Go back. Nothing. Then they did it here. And they held it a little bit longer this time when they zapped it. They held it a bit longer because it went through 2 frames. Usually it only hits 1 frame. If I was a scientist, I'm sure I could explain this. Actually, you'd have to be a scientist working in the military or the governmental, secret society or whatever. But a lot less of this storm was manipulated than Lane. But the reason why I know Lane is not, in my opinion, I think Hector was a real hurricane, and then I think they didn't mess with it until it got closer to us and helped it tilt away from us. But I do not believe that Lane was an actual natural form hurricane because Hector actually sent us waves for 2 weeks. We were surfing and lots of waves, and and this thing you'll see over time that it veers down around the islands, never going above the 18-degree longitude line on the map here. And so I think Lane's going to do the same exact thing, or nothing. Might be falling apart before it even moves. But this one held together longer. And I think that had to do a lot with the fact that it was natural. So, anyways, I could go through all these, but it's not necessary. What I wanted to show you was some of the evidence here. So, let's see here. There was the trajectory of this hurricane. And again, like we said, we had waves and amazing conditions. And it was farther away. How come we have no surf and this one is so much closer? Because it's not a real storm. Here, we were getting waves here as close as it was as a Category 3. This one's a Category 5, so they say, and yet the effects are mild, if that, mild to nothing. This one only played a little bit, but again, there's another evidence of where Hector was. And so I know it's easy for us to forget things. And of course, if you're not someone like me who's just completely obsessed with the map and interesting things in it, you're not going to really pay attention to this stuff. But I do. I think it's fascinating. And when you start looking at situations that just don't make sense, things just don't line up, you start to question the reality and the information you're getting. And so let me see if I can do something. I think if it animates it, it's going to bring it right back to, let's see here. Was this? Oh yes, unfortunately when I start to animate it, it brings it right back to the storm we're witnessing right now. So again, if this is truly a storm, like a real Mother Earth created hurricane, we would have had waves for a week now. Huge waves, south swell, amazing surf, but nothing, absolutely nothing. Um, so, what can I say? Do your own research, make your own assumptions about this, but I'm just trying to open your eyes to another reality, even though it seems really weird. And if you're like me, you might go through this weird conclusion that you're a little bit upset that people are controlling the weather, because you would think that's something they wouldn't mess with, storms, rain, snow, whatever. But they are. Okay, fine. So let them. As soon as we're all aware enough to know that that's what you're doing and we just don't buy into their fear, we're like, whatever. We know that we're just here for a short time anyways, and we go back home to heaven or whatever your belief is, then they won't keep pushing this agenda. As soon as we stop being afraid of everything they're presenting us to be afraid of, we won. They've lost, because that's the only thing they're trying to do is put us in fear, put us to where we feel that we have to get their help and go to the FEMA camp and we can't survive. All that's bullshit, and you know it. So just stop being afraid and stop listening to what they say. The more of us that wake up and come out of the matrix and just like, hey, okay, whatever, you can be crazy with your weather manipulations. I'm going to do me. I know how to take care of myself. I know that I can survive so many days off food. I don't have to panic, and I'm not going to panic. What's the worst that can happen? I die? Big deal. You can reincarnate back here if you want to. It's only a dream, an illusion anyways. So wake up from this weird reality that they have projected onto you and take back your power. Okay, that's all I have to say. Aloha from Maui, Hawaii.